What's going on is Anton from antondaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. Sunday, so in addition to preparing for everything that we got going on the weekend, I usually try to get a lot of stuff done as far as around the house and my own personal projects and stuff like that. So one of the personal projects that I have going on is I got a lot of cars in storage. I got my 911 in storage. I got my Challenger Hellcat in storage. This car don't even have 150 miles on it. My 911 don't even have 800 miles on it. I got my 96 Impala. That car don't even have 30,000 miles on it. So I got a lot of cars in different places all over. And some of them I keep in storage. And one of the reasons that I keep them in storage is because I'm trying to anticipate whether or not I want to buy a building in which I kind of centralize and then move everything from a content creation as well as all of my companies into one separate building and in one whole building and just build it up the way that I want to, which I'm thinking that I might do at some point. But then in addition to that, I'm also thinking about building, since we in a property development company, building a massive house, which would then house 20 different cars or have the ability to house 20 different cars and stuff like that. So that's one of the things that I'm exploring over the next couple years from a project perspective, and I'm really excited about that. But in addition to that, one of the things that I'm also conflicted about is I think that taxes are a scam. It is absolutely a scam. And when you think about it, and I'm not just talking about income taxes, right? Because income taxes is already a scam. I think it should be a set rate. Everybody pay 10% of whatever it is you make, however much you make, and then you go from that. A lot of people think that they got this socialist mentality because they don't really understand what socialism and communism is. And so they exist in a space where they think that rich people or people that make more money should pay more to subsidize the lifestyles of everybody else. And I think that that's completely unfair. Other people use it as a form of trying to make sure that they balance the scales between the haves and the have-nots. And it really doesn't matter, right? If you're talking about it on an economic level, then I will tell you that you can remove all of the wealth and you can equalize everything and give everybody all of the money from the rich and then give all of the money to the poor. And people that have resources because they have a different mentality, they gonna end up right back rich again within the next 2 to 3 years. It's just the way that it is. Once you change your mindset to what success looks like and you know how to offer value and create products, and also on top of that, you understand that you're willing to make the sacrifice and not buy a bunch of stuff, but first invest in the things that then pay you over a period of time. You can't teach that. That's just a mindset, and it's also work ethic, right? But in addition to that, let's remove the income taxes aspect of it first. And let's just talk about it purely from the taxes that we pay and everything else. We pay bag taxes and we pay sales taxes and gas taxes and all of this stuff to basically put more money in the coffers of people that don't know how to manage our money effectively, AKA politicians. We then pay property taxes. I have zero mortgages on any of the properties that I build and own and rent out to other people. I have a ton of properties. All of them are valued at minimum at about $300,000 to $400,000 a piece. They go up in value. I don't have any mortgages, which allows for me to keep the rents lower, but I do still invest in the properties. It takes maintenance. You still got to make sure that you update the roofs and the windows and all of this different stuff. And if the heat goes out, and you got to call an HVAC tech and all of this stuff, right? So it's so many different things that happen throughout the process. And the beautiful part about it, which doesn't just extend to me as a business owner, but it extends to you as a homeowner, is that when you look at your mortgage or what you pay, when you talk about the HOA fees, when you talk about maintenance and all of that, your mortgage is not just based off of how much the property is and your interest rate and what you got to pay to the bank in order to hold on to the property, paying 30 years, 360 payments before you can even say that it's yours. It's still not yours because you still have to pay an egregious amount of property taxes based off of how big and how much the property is worth. Which then brings me back to my original dilemma of, man, do I even want to build a massive property? Because really, it's only me and my wife and my daughter and 3 people. And it would be nice to have a pool house, indoor pool house, and all of this stuff. But in reality, it's almost like, do I really need it, considering that even though I wouldn't have a mortgage, that I would have to pay an egregious amount of money in property taxes? And that bothers me. It genuinely does. It bothers me. Do you have the resources to be able to do it? Sure. Do I want to do it just for the sake of doing it? Because, one of the reasons I even started to consider building a big property is because it would be a centralized location for me to be able to keep all of my cars and then do my thing. And then maybe I'll put a studio on top of the place that I hold the cars, and then I'll have a guest house, and I'll have my daughter at the guest house. That way we can all be on the same property and all of this stuff. But then it's like, but you never really own the property. And I'm not just talking about it from my lens. I'm talking about it from the lens of people in general. You never truly own it, because if you miss paying your property taxes by 2 or 3 years, one of the ways I acquire land in places to build on is that I actually go through the property tax auction. And these are places where people, capitalism is what it is. If the city don't get its money, it's going to take over the property, it's going to auction it, and then it's going to want to put that property back on the tax roll so that they can generate revenue for the city, right? And when you think about that, when you really start to break it down, taxes are really a scam. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be some form of tax, because if you want to make sure that you update and keep the infrastructure up, if you want to make sure that you got good water, if you want to make sure that you got city lights and good freeways and stuff, I get it. But the way that these politicians are mismanaging funds make it disrespectful, because they never really lower taxes. Trump is really the first president that we've had in my lifetime that said, listen, cut the tax rate, bring in more businesses, and then we want to start leveraging tariffs because there's a trade deficit with all of these different countries that is taking advantage of the United States of America. We still giving money to Ukraine. We basically subsidizing other people getting rich on behalf of taxpayers through the military industrial complex, through the prison industrial complex, all of these things, right? We subsidize people that don't do what they're supposed to do when it comes to taking care of business and making sure that they run up a bag and paying your fair share is not having to pay for Section 8. Paying your fair share is not having to pay for illegal migrants. See, when we start to really tamp it down, we spend more money on paying interest on not being able to manage a federal, local, governmental budget. Chicago was $1 billion. They projected $1 billion deficit in revenue versus what they had going out. They sold their streets, and now they don't even make money from the parking on their streets. And anytime that they shut down a street to have a parade or something, they got to pay a foreign entity to do so. We are mismanaging our funds. And so again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have some form of tax, depending on the circumstance, to ensure that we have basic services and to also ensure that we take care of the fundamental businesses. But on a larger scale, we are largely overtaxed. When you think about it, you work your ass off, you run up a bag, you take care of business, and you get to a point where you suddenly starting to have it pay off, and then you practically paying half of your income to somebody who gonna mismanage your funds and don't even do nothing. They get half of your shit. That's worse than a mafia. You don't even get no protection from that. You don't get no protection from that. So I personally are not a fan of high taxes. I think it's disrespectful, and it affects everything we do. It's not just from an income level. It's your property taxes. It's when you drive. It's when we renew our tags. I just renewed my tags for 10 cars. 10 cars. I paid a crazy amount of money in tags in the form of taxes. You know what I'm saying? Some of those cars was almost $1,000 just for tax for a year. It's insane. When we talking about, preservation of our forests, I know that we have a lot of forestry here in Michigan, and so we have, preservation and stuff. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with preserving, our parks and our counties, and we got to make sure that those is maintained and stuff like that. But when it comes to all of this other stuff that we got going on, I'm not a fan of it. I don't love it. I still love this country. I love this country, but the taxes that we pay is insane and egregious. And I don't know if you guys agree with me, but it causes me to question and figure out whether or not I actually want to, because I can't really write off some of the things that I have to, I'm overly taxed on. Anyways, I gotta finish changing out the battery of this mug because I got a kill switch on it. And I think that the kill switch is draining the battery. Also, when I bought this car, had been sitting a long time on the dealership floor because people couldn't afford cars or whatever. So, you know, they had to jump it just to get it popping. And then I got kill switches and all of this other type of stuff on it. So I got to change the battery. I jumped it yesterday and it wouldn't hold the charge. So I'm just going to change the battery out outright. So that's what we do. Got the Cybertruck with me. About to change the battery on that, and we're going to keep it popping. Listen, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Teach Hanley, 40% off your first order, 20% off of life. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Let me know what y'all think about taxes in the chat. I know that we got all, you know, different walks of life, all socioeconomic statuses, but let me know what y'all think about taxes inside of the chat. I'm not a fan of it.